Your daily dose of dopamine. My name is Robert. I'm here with my pal Doug King. Doug is I don't know your official title with the Dave Parker Foundation. What is that?
The self-appointed event coordinator.
Self-appointed coordinator. I love that. You got to throw that in front of it. Uh,
There's
I've had the benefit of knowing Doug for about 8 years. I think it was around 2017 or so, because it was 2018 was the event when we got that invite to go out there and screen with you guys at the Cincinnati Hall of Fame. Is that technically what it's
yep,
called? Yeah.
yep. The Reds Hall of Fame and Museum, right?
It, which couldn't have been better. It's a great part of the third film, a big part of my dad's and my story for Boys of Summer. So, just again, thank you for that. What people don't know, didn't see there, was the kind of behind the scenes hanging out thing. We just got to hang out with you for a couple days, and you couldn't have been a better host. Or just really, we really just felt your friendship and your kinship. So, wanted to reiterate and thank you for that.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And how you got to be with the Dave Parker Foundation, because people know Dave from the outside, but obviously you know him better than most.
Well, I hope so. Back in the very early '90s, I worked for Burger King Corporation as a franchise sales guy,
Mhm.
and I was contacted by his attorney who said he's got a major league veteran that wants to look at franchising for the next phase of his life. And I went and met with them, and they ended up trying to do a Burger King. But back in those days, the local franchisees always had first dibs on a site. So about a year later, they hadn't found a site yet, and I moved on to Popeyes and Church's Chicken, and I was thinking about them, and I said, well, you know, maybe they'd want to look at that. And so I recontacted them and said, if you're not going to get the Burger King open, they will refund your money, and maybe you want to take a look at this. So they did, and they ended up by opening 3 Popeyes around Cincinnati. And around the same time, Dave mentioned he was doing a golf outing, and I had been involved in a couple golf outings with my kids' elementary school. And I said, well, I'd be happy to help you with that. I like doing that. And I worked with those guys who were doing it then in conjunction with the Cool Jazz Festival here in Cincinnati. And we did that for about 6 years until I don't really know why we stopped doing it. It was a lot of work for those guys. They were running the whole thing. And I know how much work it is now. Anyway, fast forward 2015, I ran into Dave at an event. Hadn't seen him in a while. And because I would run into him around town, but I hadn't spent any time with him.
Sure.
And it was right after he announced that he had Parkinson's, shortly thereafter. And we were talking, and I said, well, if I can do anything to help your new foundation, I'd be happy to. And about 30 days later, he called me one day and said, I want to do a golf outing. You want to do it?
Yeah.
So we've done it. That was 2015 was the first one. We got it off that year, little smaller in scale because we only worked on it for a few months. And from then on, we've done it every year and this will be our 11th one.
The putting for Parkinson's is what it's called, right?
No, that was Scott's. That's Scott.
That's
Ours is the Cobra Classic.
The Cobra Classic. So see, you've got more things than I know.
There was another one. There was another one here in town called Putting for Parkinson's.
Okay. So the Cobra Classic.
Yeah.
Okay. So take me to, if you would, that moment in 2015, because you know him from the business side, and you got to meet him. And I mean, Dad's first reaction when he saw him was, geez, he's a big guy.
And he was huge back then. Yeah.
Right. Even bigger. And you see a guy who's a mountain of a man and just legendary in terms of he's the Cobra, this, that, and the other. And he comes to you with this Parkinson's diagnosis. What was that moment like for you to hear it and for him to share it with you?
Well, it was publicized here in town.
Sure.
He'd gone public with it. So it was in the newspaper, the sports section, et cetera. And I was not familiar with Parkinson's per se. I was familiar with people with tremors.
Right.
We had an old family friend. I don't know what the diagnosis was, but he had the tremors. And that's all he ever had. So I don't think he had Parkinson's. It was probably one of the other ones that caused some of that stuff. And at that point, he had no visible or very limited visible manifestations of the PD.
Right.
And he was still a big guy. I mean, even in 2015, he'd lost some weight,
Yeah.
not playing ball anymore and taking a little better care of his health, etc. And he, but he was still a big guy. And gradually, the Parkinson's symptoms have appeared and gotten worse. And
Well,
the whole
yeah. And we'll get there. I want to talk more about that. And I think it's part of we're about at our 5 minutes now. Just to recap that feeling of, when you talk about someone of his stature, I mean, I'm sure like people felt about Muhammad Ali, it's not just the physical size and the prowess athletic, but there's a confidence. I mean, Dave could light up a room, right?
Absolutely.
And so let's hold that there, because we're going to talk about, both the confidence, the man, and by the way, the woman behind the scene, you mentioned Kelly, who was a part of this too. So thanks for being here, Doug. We'll come back for our next episode.
Okay.